Hello again, everyone. Continuing with LA Week, I'm going to look at the Lakers of the NBA today. Lakers having a very dismal season last year with a 21-61 record, so second last in the West. Obviously, they had the number 2 overall pick. The only team worse than them was Minnesota. With that number 2 pick, they did draft D'Angelo Russell, a point guard, and then they also have a couple other players from the draft on their team right now who are playing in Summer League, and Larry Nance Jr., who is a power forward, drafted 27th overall, and Anthony Brown, who is a small forward, drafted 34th overall. So essentially, they have 3 first-round picks. 34th overall is practically a first round pick in my opinion on their roster right now playing in Summer League, so we'll see the impact those guys have on the team. Nance Jr., from a lot of people I talk to, think he's a bit of a bust. Don't have very high praise for him. And Anthony Brown, again, we'll see what happens with him, but definitely when you draft the guy second overall with D'Angelo Russell, you expect him to make an impact on your team, and he's definitely going to do that. Looking at the offseason for them. Lakers haven't really been a high free agent market. They didn't get a top 10, maybe not even a top 20 free agent interested in signing with them. Aldridge obviously had a meeting with them, and from the reports I've read and stuff that I've seen over Twitter, that meeting went horrible, and that's why he went and signed with the Spurs. Great pickup for San Antonio. Obviously now they got a guy who can step in for Duncan when he decides to retire. If the way Duncan plays, he could play until he's 45. But at least they have an option now with Aldridge there in San Antonio. But that hurt the Lakers a lot. They did get a couple guys. Obviously, they did sign Lou Williams, Sixth Man of the Year this past year with the Raptors. Great pickup for them, for sure. Unfortunately, when the sixth Man of the Year is your biggest signing, it kind of proves that you really weren't a great free agent market. You didn't make a lot of big moves, and they're probably not going to improve a heck of a lot. I think they'll get better, but not a heck of a lot. The other signing they had, Brandon Bass, obviously the veteran from the Celtics, good veteran presence to have on there for sure. Big trade though is when they picked up Roy Hibbert, who I think is a good fit for this team. Not sure if he's better than Jordan Hill, but I think he's a better fit. If he can come to LA and they can expect him to focus on defense and rebounding and not expect this guy to be a 20-point guy, because Hibbert is not that kind of a player. He's been in the league for a while now, and he only has averaged 11.1 points per game over the course of his career, so he's not going to be a 20-point per game guy. If he was going to be that type of player, he would be that already, and he's just not. He averaged 7.1 boards last year with the Pacers, so solid numbers there. But if they can get him to focus on just defense and rebounding, I think he can be a double-digit rebounder on as an average on any night. I think he has that ability, as long as he doesn't focus on the offense. If he chips in with his 10 points per game, that's great, but he needs to focus on defense and rebounding, and I think that's what the Lakers need him to do. I think they have enough scoring options with the team that Hibbert doesn't need to be a 20-10 guy. He needs to be a 10-10 guy and go forward with that. So focus on the defense, focus on the rebounding, and he'll be successful in LA. If they expect him to be a 20-point guy, they are crazy. He's not going to be that. Like I said, if he was going to be a 20-point per game guy, he'd be that already, and he's just not. Lou Williams, I think, is a solid signing for them. Obviously, coming from a team with a little bit of success in Toronto, was the sixth man of the year, played 80 games in Toronto last year, but didn't start any of them, and I don't think he's the kind of sixth man that can go from being he's not a James Harden type of a sixth man who can go from being the sixth man of a team to the star of another team. Obviously, Harden left OKC, he's now the star of Houston, and part of me thinks that the Thunder really have not been the same since Harden left. So I think good teams have a good sixth man. You have to have a solid bench, and I think Lou Williams gives that to this team. I don't think he can step into a starting role. I think he can, but I just don't think it's the right move for the Lakers. He can play starting minutes, and if Russell is playing weak or Kobe gets hurt or those kind of things happen, then sure, Lou Williams can be a starter in this league. He can play starting minutes. He averaged 15.5 points last season with the Raptors, which was a career high for him. Before that, he averaged 10 and 11 points per game kind of over a season. So again, he's not going to blossom into a 20-point per game kind of a player, but he's a good option for this team, a good veteran to bring in, as was Brandon Bass. So those are a couple guys they brought in. Obviously, Hibbert, the big trade they have, but they didn't bring any top free agents. And I think Kobe is a big part of that. I'm someone who likes Kobe, but doesn't like Kobe. I think he's been a great player for LA. LA owes a lot of success they've had in the past to him. He's been a great player for that organization, but I think going forward, he is not in the plans for the Lakers. And I think he still expects a max contract. He still expects to be the face of that franchise, the man in LA. And I don't think he can be anymore. He's been injury prone the last couple seasons. In the 35 games he played last year, he did average 22.5 points with 5.5 assists, 5.5 boards. So he can still produce when he's on the court for sure. But going forward, the Lakers need to look beyond Kobe, in my opinion. You need to now look at guys like Russell, like Clarkson, like Black, like Hibbert, now that you've brought him in, and build a team with those guys. Kobe is not going to be in this league 3 years from now. Russell is, and Clarkson is, and Hibbert is, and all these other guys I just mentioned. They're going to be in the league, and they're going to be what takes your team going forward. You know, Kobe, if he's healthy, sure, he can play a full season, but he hasn't done that in the last couple years, so if you expect him to play 82 games and give 110% in all 82 games, halfway through the season, he's going to get gassed, and he is going to start not producing the way you want him to. And I think that's why they drafted Russell with the number 2 pick. Not necessarily to replace Kobe, because again, Kobe's not a guy you can just draft a guy top 5 and replace him with that player. And I think that would add a lot of pressure, and unnecessary pressure, onto Russell to bring him in and say, you're the guy that we're going to have to replace Kobe Bryant. Thank you. You've now just put the weight of the world on my shoulders to take an organization that won 21 games last year forward. And that's unfair to Russell, I think. I think Russell will be the point guard for this team going forward, but not necessarily somebody who's going to take over from Kobe. I don't think that's fair to him. And Kobe can still play. Like I said, he's not someone that the Lakers should just get rid of, but he is definitely not someone that they should be thinking of in their immediate plans and in their future plans. He's not someone that I think is going to be around much longer, obviously. He's been injured the last couple of seasons, so you need to have a new direction, go forward with these young guys you've drafted, and these other players you have. Clarkson last year played 59 games, started in about half of those, chipped in with 12 points per game, 11.9, 12 points per game. Boozer, again, a great veteran. Not sure what his status is with his team. He is a free agent. Not sure if he's going to resign. He might go somewhere else. I think it's a great move if they can find a way to resign him. A good veteran presence to have on this team. If you can have a veteran guys like Brandon Bass, Carlos Boozer, Hibbert, who I'm going to consider a veteran, to come into this team and help these young guys like Russell and Nance Jr. and Anthony Brown and Clarkson, you got a good combination of veteran presence and young talent there to go forward. So we'll see what happens with Boozer. Last year he chipped in with 12 points per game with 7 boards, so great guy to have on the team for sure. Bass last year, while playing with the Celtics, played in all 82 games, started half of those, 11 points per game with 5 boards, great guy to have there. Black, who's listed as a center/forward kind of a player, played in 38 games with the Lakers last year, started 27 of those, 7 points, 6 boards, so he's a good option to have after Hibbert. If Hibbert's not on the court, I think Black is a solid second option at the center position. They also have Robert Sacre, who's a Canadian. Got to mention that, obviously, while I'm talking about him. Played in 67 games last year with the Lakers, started 18 of those, but only 4.5 points, 3.5 boards. So, again, a solid guy to have, but I wouldn't want him on the court for more than maybe 10 minutes a game. Other guys, obviously, you're going to want to keep an eye on with this team. Like I said, with Clarkson, another guard they have, Brown, not Anthony Brown. He's a small forward. They drafted 34th overall. Brown is a guard who chipped in with 12 points per game last year with a couple boards, couple assists in the 19 games he played in. So they got Young, again, another young talent they have. Played in 42 games last year. Didn't start any of those, but chipped in with 13.5 points and 2.5 boards. Good player there as well. So I think they've got some pieces. I think they're heading in the right direction. When you look at the West, though, it's a very tough conference, and I don't think the Lakers are close to making the playoffs yet. The 8th seed last year in the West had a 45-37 record. Last year, the Lakers had a 21-61 record. So for them to even have a chance of making the playoffs, they got to win 25 more games. They have to win at least twice as many games as they did last year, this year, and that's a lot of improvement in a very short span of time. And I think they're heading in the right direction. I think if I'm the Lakers, I look at 21-61 record, horrible. I look at this season, you aim for 30 to 35 wins. And then you maintain, a potential top 10 pick. You draft another player next year who can play well with Russell. They can create a chemistry going forward, and you can create another duo in LA that will become a great team going forward. So this year, obviously, you want to improve, show that you're heading in the right direction, get 30, 35 wins, maintain another top 10 pick, bring in another young player, become a little more appealing in the free agent market. Maybe you can find some big free agents to come next year. if you're showing that you're heading in the right direction and you have good young guys, that some veterans who maybe have been in the league for 6 or 7 years, like the Roy Hibberts, those kind of players, might be interested in coming to LA next year. So I think that's how you look at it. And then 2 seasons from now, they get to a 500 season. And then after that, by the end of this decade, we could see the Lakers potentially making the playoffs. If they make the right moves, draft the right players, those players develop in the way the team wants them to, and they get some free agents that are wanting to come and play in LA. But those are my thoughts on the Lakers. Thank you again all for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at GHAM614, and I'll be continuing LA Week and finishing LA Week off tomorrow with my look at the Clippers. Obviously, I'll be talking about DeAndre Jordan, big talk this offseason, so that'll be the big talking point tomorrow as I finish LA Week off with my look at the Clippers of the NBA. Again, I appreciate all the support, and thanks again. Have a good day. Bye-bye.